Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am recording this on Sunday, the 6th of October in the year 2024, and I am in beautiful, rainy Costa Rica, where you probably hear the rain falling behind me. So it's not a hiss, it's not on my microphone, it's not my system, it's rain, it's Mother Nature. So, as Mother Nature joins us in this podcast, I want to mention a few things first. So, I mentioned last Sunday on my podcast that I had some exciting things to tell you about my holographic scaling system, New Vision. New Vision is an advanced AI technology that I have been a part of for 15 years. And it scans your quantum field, it scans your field, and it produces results based on filters that you put in the system, like questions that you ask. What is the best remedy for me? What are the emotional things that need to be cleared? I developed the emotional component of the system, and my very dear friend and colleague, Gwen Foster, developed the naturopathic component of the system. Well, Gwen has developed a mini scan, and this is for people who want to get their top 10 health recommendations. And you can get the mini scan for $35 on our New Vision website, newvisionusa.com, and that's spelled NUVISION USA.com. And the mini scan, you'll see it in the top navigation. It'll say mini scan. And you can click on that and there'll be a video of Gwen and you can hear what she has to say introducing the mini scan. There's FAQs on the page. But what you do is you put in your name, your birth date, and the location of your birth, but not your birth time. It's not astrology. And we do a 10-item mini scan based on a filter we've decided upon, and it gets sent to you. Now, it might not be getting sent to you from me. It depends on who. We've got a whole team of New Vision users that are participating in this project, and they may send you, one of those people may send you your mini scan with your 10 topics, with your 10 recommendations. What are the recommendations like? Maybe this person needs to take more vitamin C. This person needs to use the flower essence violet curls for their healing and well-being. This person could use more sleep. This person should balance their work life, have a balance of work and life. This person should exercise more. All sorts of things. It can be very specific, or it can be a little more general, like, use flower essences or use essential oils, or something like that. So we're very excited about it. We've had a bunch of people request mini scans already. Gwen put it out on her mailing list, and we are actively working with people to do that. Now, if you want a session with a practitioner, we do have a practitioner page on the website, and you can choose any one of those people. If you like your mini scan, you say, I want to know more, and you want to go more in depth with things, you can do that with any one of us. So I do mostly the emotional components. I'm not a naturopathic doctor. We do have people who are specialized in certain areas of healing and health, and have medical degrees that are chiropractors. They do all sorts of stuff. So you can look on our practitioner page at the same website, and that will allow you to choose a practitioner or, learn more about New Vision, which is a fascinating system. It's very advanced. Like I said, I've been involved with it since 2009, and we do I find it extremely useful and very telling. It says things a lot of times before it becomes an issue. So if something is coming for you, and there's some emotions coming up in my realm anyway, it will come up and I'll see them and we can discuss them and that kind of thing if you want to do. And I do emotional clearing. I use it to clear people emotionally. So that's the big news with New Vision. Now, moving right along, so I found some interesting things the last few days. So since we've met, we've had an eclipse. And as you know, it was a solar eclipse in Libra. It was, as I expected, to be intense. The last solar eclipse we had was in April. And I remember the East Coast of the United States had an earthquake at that time. And this time the East Coast of the United States had a hurricane that did a lot of damage. And I'm just referring to that one section of the world because those are the people I hear from, my family and stuff. And I don't really, I mean, there's other things going on elsewhere, but it's an eclipse for the entire planet, okay? And so some very odd things came. So I wrote a blog. I do write a blog, and it's on my website. It's, if you go to thegoldenastrologer.com, it's under Astrologer's Thoughts, which you can find at the bottom banner of my website. It will say Astrologer's Thoughts, and you click on that, and it will bring up my blog. Or if you want to join my mailing list, you can do that too when you go to thegoldenastrologer.com, and you will get my blog when I turn it out. Don't worry, I don't bombard you daily with things, okay? But I wrote a blog because I felt it was good to do that for this eclipse. And because there's a lot of changes relative to the eclipse that I talked about last week, and that I mentioned things in my blog. But yet, I must need to change my vocabulary because I've had a few people say things to me. Some people, and I don't think they listen to this podcast, say this to me, that, oh, good, this sounds like it's going to be good for me. And one person who is a relative said to me, oh, but you said it was going to be very good. The eclipse was going to be very good. I said no such thing. I did not use the words very good in my blog. I did not use those words. Why? Because I'm very cautious. First of all, I choose my words carefully when I'm writing my blog. And I did not use the words very good, and I even went back and looked at it again, and no, I didn't say very good. So I said intense. I told my relative, I said intense, and I said powerful. Those can mean exactly what they are. That doesn't mean very good. To me, eclipses, what I have learned from my astrology work all these years since, I was a child, eclipses, the ancients feared them because the heavens went dark. So there's a dark component to eclipses. Yes, things may pop and it may be good news. Like I told you, last bunch of eclipses, we had someone here find out she's having a baby, and that's a very nice thing. Okay, she wanted a baby, she's having a baby. Yes, but that also means that her life was never going to be the same. And our lives are never going to be the same because we are connected to her, and she is now having a baby, and she's not someone who is childless anymore. She's going to have a kid. That changes everything. So eclipses do that. They can bring something good like that, but they are often saying goodbye to something that is no longer going to be the case. So eclipses turn the sky dark. The moon disappears, the sun disappears. That's the point. It's eclipsed. They are shadowed by something that is in their way, right? So you stand there and you watch the sun disappear, or you stand there and you watch a bite taken out of the moon, right? That means that the heavens, the lights of the heavens, the sun and the moon, go dark. You may not be able to see it from your location, but you are going to probably feel it on some emotional level, some energetic level. I felt this time around that it was anxiety producing. It was for me. I experienced anxiousness. I felt rattled. The one before that was not the case. The one 2 weeks ago on the 17th of September was not rattling. It was extraordinarily peaceful and very quiet, and I was surprised. Not to say, I always expect something. I expect thump. Okay, there it is, But this was definitely rattling. And as I mentioned last week, and now we're going to segue into this week. This was the last eclipse of Pluto in Capricorn. So, as I've said, Pluto in Capricorn, to me, now maybe not to you, maybe it was great success for you, but for me, Pluto in Capricorn, to me, seemed like a dark time. 16 years of this. And now, finally, the eclipse is saying goodbye, helping us say goodbye to Pluto in Capricorn. And as we segue into this week ahead, Friday, October 11th, this coming Friday, Pluto will stop its retrograde motion and go direct, which means it's stationing now. So what does that mean? That means that the planet that's been retrograde for months has now started to make its way towards forward motion. And forward motion means it's going forward, obviously, but it's going into Aquarius. So this is the last station of Pluto in Capricorn. We're done. After this coming Friday, Pluto will go direct Friday, 8:34 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are full speed ahead for Pluto to go into Aquarius. That means about 5 weeks, Pluto will head towards Aquarius and enter Aquarius the 19th of November next month. So this is it. This is the end of Pluto in Capricorn. That was the last eclipse of Pluto in Capricorn. And this is profound because we are moving towards a brand new paradigm, a new time. And as I have said before, I've said new paradigm a bunch of times because Pluto, this is the third time Pluto's going into Aquarius. Pluto went into Aquarius for the first time March of 2023. Then it went in again on January 20th or so this year, 2024. Then, it has stepped out and stepped back in. This is the third and final time that Pluto is going into Aquarius. It's going to stay for 20 years. So my feeling and the energetics of this to me has been, okay, whatever you were experiencing during the eclipse, and maybe it's lingering a little longer than it should, and that's the way it's been feeling to me, like, this eclipse energy is lingering longer. No, what I've come to realize, mostly like within the last couple of days, the last day or so, because I gave the eclipse a few days. It was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then today, and I'm like, no, this is not eclipse energy anymore. This is now transformed into Pluto energy. This is now Pluto getting ready to make its station direct. So if you feel like, wow, that eclipse is just hanging on, isn't it? It's actually that we've run straight into Pluto. So one major aspect to another. And Pluto is slow, and it's very concentrated when it stops moving. So that's what it's doing now. Now, when we say that it's concentrated, we mean that it's focused on one part of the zodiac. It's on 29 degrees of Capricorn. That's where it's been since September 1st. And it's not going past that. It's not going back to 28. It's going to turn around this coming Friday and go direct towards Aquarius, entering November 19th. So that's a few weeks. So you see how slowly Pluto moves. It's not like it turns around and it goes into Aquarius the next day. It's not the moon. It moves very slowly and very focused, concentrated energy. So it gives us a chance to digest all of this, and we've been digesting it for a year and a half since March of last year, but also saying goodbye to the last 16 years. Now, if you feel unsettled, if you feel rattled, if you feel overwhelmed, or you just feel I can't get a grip, and I feel like I'm having a moment here, and it's an intense emotional moment, and it doesn't feel comfortable, and it doesn't feel very good, like I supposedly said in my blog, which I didn't, if it doesn't feel very good, you're right on target, okay? Don't think there's something wrong with you. There's not. There's not something wrong with you. This means that you are experiencing the end of a major cycle, and you are feeling it. So you're sensitive. Congratulations. It's a beautiful thing. But it's not necessarily going to feel very good. Yes, you may be excited for it. I'm excited for it. And I'm an Aquarius. I should be like, it's Aquarius, it's Pluto. No. I'm excited to finally end the tyranny of Pluto and Capricorn. And I'm looking forward to, hopefully lots of altruism and humanitarian efforts and Pluto empowering me, I'm looking forward to that. But that doesn't mean I'm feeling amazing and comfortable. It means that there's a transition, and transitions are not comfortable, especially when it comes to something like Pluto. So if you feel like things are falling apart on some level, or you are not certain of what your future looks like. These are all Pluto symptoms, okay? I feel like my world is collapsing. I'm losing everything. I'm frightened. I'm uncomfortable. I'm waking up in the middle of the night. Any of those, all of those, one of those, none of those. Maybe for you, this is an easy transition. Maybe you don't know that Pluto is changing signs and you don't care. Maybe you're just very like go with the flow and it's fine. And some people are just immune to that, and God bless them. I feel everything. And, I was laying awake at some ungodly hour this morning in my bed, and it was dark out, and I just thought, oh, here we go again. Here we go again. But I haven't heard the birds yet. Wait, where are the birds? So we are gearing up for this big, big, big change. And I'm going to talk about this ad infinitum till we get to November 19th, and then probably a little more after that. But it's going to feel different. And it does feel different this time. To me, it feels like this is a finality. And so, I could even say last night I identified some symptoms of what felt like grief. And grief is always loss. It's associated with loss. So when we are grieving, we've lost something. And so maybe there are things that you can relate to that. Maybe you feel that too. And I wasn't able to name it until I was talking to a friend last night. And then I realized, okay, that's what it is. It feels like grief. And I've felt grief many times in my life. But I can say that this has been a really deep transformation. Pluto is the planet of the underworld. Remember that. This is not going to be rosy. This is going to feel like it's a big release and a big letting go of something that has transpired in our lives over the last 16 years. And it doesn't mean that you're going to lose everything. Everything's ending, or like everything that you hold dear in your life, your work, your career, your family. It's just we're moving to something else, and the focus is not going to be the same theme it has been for 16 years. Here's a good little assignment. Sit down with yourself and journal about where you've been and what you've experienced in these last 16 years, and draw some conclusions about what the themes were. I think that process could really help each of us to just sort of close the book and close the door on these last 16 years. Because it is the end of a cycle. We have seen a lot of things. It's a dramatic time that we've been through. And, when I look at the transformation of Pluto, and I look at how Pluto has transformed our lives, and we can go right back to 2008 and say, well, remember the financial crisis? Yeah. And then remember this and remember that. Remember COVID? All of these things. Pluto was a big part of COVID. Pluto, Saturn together, and then Jupiter joining them. That was that COVID cluster we talked about. So we've been through some journey in these last 16 years, and it's up to us to own where we've been and connect with it and let it go and say, good, I don't have to look at these themes anymore. I'm tired of them. I would like to look at something else. I would like to focus on more humanitarian, altruistic things. Aquarius to me is a lighter, brighter sign. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an Aquarius, but it's a lighter, brighter sign. Aquarius was ruled by Saturn until they discovered Uranus, and now Uranus is assigned to Aquarius. And frankly, I think Uranus is a good planetary ruler for Aquarius. Some people feel, especially the people who study like Hellenistic astrology and the ancient astrologies, they feel that Saturn worked well in Aquarius. On some level, I understand that, and I do get the connection. But for me, it's better. It's with Uranus. Because Uranus is always about like innovation and technology and opening the door to new things and excitement. Uranus is an exciting planet. It always heats things up and things get exciting. But when we have this Uranus ruled sign and something else goes in it, then those planets are working together. Pluto is in Uranus's backyard, right? All this time he's been in Saturn's backyard. So Saturn is rules and regulations and duty and responsibility and structure, which is good. And we have to be committed and working on our stuff, like you can't make art, you can't go to work, you have to stay like focused and committed on those things, and that's a really great thing to do. You get things done, you get something accomplished. If you want to write a book, you need Saturn. If you're an artist and you want to make a painting, you need Saturn. You need some structure, you need discipline. If you're an architect, you totally need Saturn. So it's a deep transition. We're going from Saturn's realm to Uranus's realm, and it's a little wackier and it's a little wilder. And so there's more, expect the unexpected coming for the next 20 years. But we're going to see what happened. Now, I may talk to you in a couple of years on this podcast and say, wow, this has been a dark time. But I don't think so, because I don't feel that way about Pluto and Sagittarius. Pluto in Scorpio was another matter before that, the early 80s to the mid 90s. There was the AIDS crisis, as I mentioned, when we were during COVID, and we're talking about Saturn Pluto, and there was Saturn Pluto back then. And so, but Saturn didn't join Pluto in Sagittarius. Saturn opposed Pluto from Gemini, and that was a whole other, there were some dark moments, yes, but the entirety of Pluto in Sagittarius was not darkness. And Pluto going into Sag, it was Jupiter's realm, So now we're going into Uranus's realm. And so I believe this is going to be a lighter, brighter energy, but we still have lessons to learn and things to get through and see the dark and the light in Aquarius. There's obviously, whenever Pluto goes somewhere, we're going to see the dark and the light. We're going to see both. So it's not going to be all fun and games. There's a dark quality to it as well. Sometimes innovation can be really valuable, and then sometimes too advanced for people that they can't process it. They can't assimilate it. So we'll see, we're going to see what happens. But that's one component of this week. The other component is, the other big important thing that's happening is Wednesday, Jupiter is going retrograde. So Jupiter's going backwards and Pluto's going forwards. So Jupiter, which is in Gemini, is going retrograde on Wednesday the 9th at 3:05 a.m. Eastern time. So it's really, as you go to bed in this region of the world on Tuesday night and you wake up on Wednesday morning, Jupiter will be retrograde. And so if you're in someplace else like Australia, it'll be probably Wednesday for you, but earlier in the day. And, Europe certainly later in the day. And, in other regions, Jupiter will be retrograde. So it's Wednesday that we're getting this retrograde. And so that is the beginning of a cycle of Jupiter, and it will stay retrograde until next year. So we're going to have a good amount of time, usually about 4 months of Jupiter retrograde. Now, that means we are experiencing the integration of everything that's happened while Jupiter has been in Gemini these last months. Now, remember, back in April, we had Jupiter still in Taurus, and Jupiter was conjunct Uranus at that time back at the end of April. And it went into Gemini on May 26th. So about a month later, it went into Gemini, and that's where it's been ever since. Now, we're going to look at where we've been since the end of May. What have you been doing? What have you been working on? What has been the case since the end of May? What was the story for you? What story have you been living all these months? And it's not like Jupiter's been in Gemini all year. It's only been a few months, and then it's going to retrograde for a few months and then go all the way back to about 11 degrees and then go direct and then finish its journey of Gemini and then go into Cancer where it's exalted, and that will all happen next year. So we're focusing on the present moment, and now we are in the station of Jupiter and the station of Pluto. So the story is, where have you been since May? Jupiter stays in a sign for about a year, and so Gemini is the realm of communication, thought, intellect, writing, speaking, all forms of communication, listening, learning, and also the neighborhood. What's the neighborhood like? Because Gemini is the immediate environment. It's the neighborhood, it's your friends in the neighborhood, it's the people upstairs from you, your neighbors, What's that about? How does that feel? There's something going on with your neighbors. Jupiter is not in its favorite sign in Gemini because it belongs in Sagittarius, which is the opposite sign from Gemini. And so this is a little rule we've talked about here on the Golden Astrologer Podcast, when something rules a particular sign, like Jupiter rules Sagittarius, then the opposite sign is where that planet is not at its best. Okay? So Jupiter in Sagittarius is great. Jupiter in Gemini, meh, Jupiter doesn't love it. So it's less than its wonderful self. Jupiter is generally expansive and wonderful. So, you have to look at your chart and find out where Gemini is and see what Jupiter has done for you. And where have you been? What's it been doing for you since May? It's probably expanded your mind in some way, right? For me, it's been expansion of my mind for sure. So I like that. I like how I've expanded my mind. I've expanded my meditation practice for sure. So that's been really good. And that has helped me a lot. And it's helped my nervous system as well, And that's the other thing about Mercury. Mercury is a sharp little planet. He's running here, he's running there, he's fast, and he's a little agitated. He rules Gemini, and that sign can be a little bit high strung at times, So when Jupiter comes there, we look for ways to use that energy wisely, and I think meditation has served me very well. And Jupiter used to rule Pisces. Jupiter, it's the co-ruler of Pisces. It was the ruler of Pisces before they discovered Neptune. So Jupiter asks us to do something faith-oriented, something in our thinking can adapt to a new sense of faith. Our thoughts turn to something Jupiterian, which is that we're protected, that we have faith, that we have some hope and optimism. So generally, I think Jupiter is not bad anywhere. It can be overindulgent, but it can mean that you are expanding your mind on a certain level, expanding your education. Certainly it can do that. So we've got Jupiter going retrograde, and then we are going to see where we've been. This is another little assignment. You can sit down and write where you've been since May. So where have you been over the last 16 years, and where have you been since May? Now, there are other things going on this week, although Pluto kind of takes over the week. Lots of other stuff. So yesterday we had this very lovely grand trine. We had the Moon and Venus together in Scorpio, and they were trining Saturn and Mars. And Venus is going to make an actual exact trine to Mars on Tuesday the 8th, which is 6:22 a.m. Eastern Time. And so this is a very nice balance in relationships. And yesterday there was a balance. I felt like understanding emotions a little better. That nice grand trine in water, helping smooth out the rough edges of emotions. The masculine, feminine polarities are in a harmonious place when Venus and Mars are talking nicely to each other. Now, that being said, Venus is in a sign she doesn't love, which is Scorpio, and Mars is in a sign it doesn't love, which is Cancer. They're better if, Mars is in Scorpio and Venus is in Pisces, but we're not doing that right now. We're not going to get there for a while. Mars is in a place, however, in the sign of Cancer that it's going into its shadow. So Mars will retrograde on December 6th, and that's at 6 degrees Leo. So it's going to go back, all the way back into Cancer, and we're in that shadow now. And so this is a strong indicator of what is to come as we move through this Mars transit that's going to take quite a few months. But we're not talking about that today. We've got time for that. But I'm just letting you know that Mars is going to retrograde, and now we're in the shadow. So start noticing any sort of Marsy things. That's passion, that's, your motivation, your direction, your intention, anything very Marsy, very strong. And your anger levels, somebody you might be in a kerfuffle with right now, just pay attention to that, okay? Try not to be in a kerfuffle with someone because you don't want to get into a worse kerfuffle when Mars goes retrograde, okay? So that's where Mars is. Now, the end of the week, next Sunday, we've got a busy Sunday, and that's because Mercury is leaving Libra and going into Scorpio. Mercury is in Libra now, which is a nice balanced place for Mercury, squaring Pluto next Sunday morning in this region of the world, 10:03 a.m. Eastern Time. And that's the last square to Pluto in Capricorn. Okay, Mercury from Libra to Pluto in Capricorn. So now we're going to be experiencing a whole bunch of the last time with Pluto in Capricorn. And then it enters Scorpio 3:23 p.m. Eastern Time next Sunday. And Mercury in Scorpio is a little sarcastic. Okay, Mercury is a little harder in Scorpio. Very insightful, intuitive, smart around things that are not visible and under the surface, like things that we need to get to the deep understanding of something, or it's great for research. And if you want to really get into the matter of something, well then yes, Mercury is great in Scorpio. It's not in any sort of detriment or fall or anything there, but it works in Scorpio. It's just words might be a little sharper, so watch out for that, okay? In the meantime, next Sunday, the Sun will trine Jupiter. That'll be very nice. Jupiter, that will be retrograde at that point at 11:52 p.m. So that's late next Sunday night, Eastern Time. Sun trine Jupiter is the vitality of life speaking to the planet of abundance. And that's a very positive, exciting kind of aspect. It's like, oh, I feel good today. I feel energized. I feel energetic. I can walk somewhere, do something, exercise a little harder, socialize, because the Sun's in Libra and Jupiter's in Gemini. So it's good for all sorts of air sign things. Anything thinking, relating, networking, talking. And, that comes up for a couple days and takes a couple days to move away. So, maybe you're not networking on Sunday night, but you could be networking Monday morning and Saturday afternoon. And, if you have any social events, this is a great time to be social with Jupiter and the Sun. It's really excellent. And then there's also the full moon that's going to be coming up the week after. We're not dealing with that for about another 11 days or so, but that is the final end of eclipse season. That kicks out the eclipse season. That full moon will be in Aries, and it's on the 17th of October. It's not this week. It's the following week. So we'll get to that on next week's podcast. One more thing on Tuesday is that when Mars and Venus are trining, Mercury is trining Jupiter, and then there's also an air sign relationship at that point with Mercury in Libra and Jupiter in Gemini. Also good for networking, good for expansive thinking, good for bright ideas, new information coming to you that can be very helpful, right? And that's interesting because Jupiter's stationing at that point, so that's going to stick a little bit because Mercury's fast, but we may have that around us for a little while because Jupiter's not moving. Mercury's moving faster than Jupiter, but it will give us some time to really maybe process some new ideas, welcome new ideas. And you can go get your New Vision mini scan. That would be great information for you. And as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, that is at newvisionusa.com. New Vision is NU Vision. So I welcome you to my New Vision world. Thank you so much for listening. It has been a beautiful end of rain here, and now it looks like it's perking up and the clouds are moving. And I wish you a beautiful week. I have much gratitude for all of you for listening, and I thank you for being part of my podcast audience, and stay tuned for next week. In the meantime, if you'd like more of me, you can go to the Instagram, the Golden Astrologer, and see some videos and other things I share. You can come have a session with me, which is going to thegoldenastrologer.com and clicking book online, and you can schedule a session with Reiki or astrology or a New Vision emotional clearing session or expansion mentoring, which can take you on a real journey with me for 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. And I wish you a beautiful, beautiful week. The next time we meet on this podcast, Pluto will be direct, and we'll see what surfaces as a result of that. Have a beautiful week. Thank you for listening.